Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer. We're looking at the glorious ancient empire of King Solomon, but we're going to diagnose it as a massive server network right on the brink of a catastrophic crash. We usually think of Solomon's era as this ultimate peak of prosperity, right? But honestly, beneath all that gold, a fatal system error was already brewing. It really was Solomon's mistake that set the stage for everything that followed. Today, we're unpacking this ancient history entirely through the lens of modern computer architecture.
Here's our system diagnostics report for today. We'll be hitting 1. Solomon's centralized system overload. 2. Rehoboam's fatal control error. 3. Protocol collapse and distributed nodes. 4. Interface destruction and hard fault. And finally, 5. Fake proxies and split brain syndrome. We are going to track the exact sequence of errors from that very first design flaw, straight down to permanent data corruption.
All right, Section 1, Solomon's centralized system overload. We absolutely have to start with the root cause here, which actually happened way before the kingdom even split.
To really grasp the crash, you have to understand Solomon's fundamental mistake. His relentless demands for resources acted exactly like a synchronous resource monopoly. Think about it. He's initiating these daily massive building projects and levying crazy heavy taxes. In tech terms, Solomon is acting as a central processing unit that's just pulling in way too many threads at once. By monopolizing literally all the resources, he pushed the kingdom's bandwidth to its absolute breaking point. He essentially froze the entire system bus. Building a system that demands more than its components can safely supply, that was his critical flaw.
So by the time Solomon actually passes away, the network is just hanging by a thread. The citizens basically submit a hardware interrupt request to the new admin, King Rehoboam. When they show up and say, "Lighten the hard service," they're begging him to relieve the processing strain caused by Solomon's centralized overload. They literally needed the system's bandwidth freed up just to survive.
Which brings us to Section 2, Rehoboam's fatal control error. Let's see how the new control unit handles this super urgent ticket.
Rehoboam, the new admin, has two very clear choices to resolve this interrupt. He could execute some safe legacy code, the stable, proven exception handling suggested by the elders, which was simply to speak kindly to the people, or he could listen to his young friends and apply a highly dangerous overvoltage patch, basically forcing even more power through a system that is already overheating using metaphorical scorpion whips.
And here is where it all goes wrong. Rehoboam intentionally bypasses the stable routines. He issues his hyper-aggressive command telling the people he's going to chastise them with scorpions. He deploys that fatal overvoltage patch completely oblivious to system safety. He just totally ignored the hardware limits.
As system auditor Matthew Henry points out in his review of the text, an admin trying to force control without any wisdom is just a guaranteed recipe for failure. Rehoboam desperately wanted the absolute authority of the central server, sure, but he completely lacked the programming wisdom to actually manage the network traffic.
Moving on to Section 3, Protocol Collapse and Distributed Nodes. Let's look at exactly how the network reacted to that malicious overvoltage command.
The 10 surrounding tribes, basically the outer nodes of the system, they immediately reject it. This famous biblical declaration, "To your tents, O Israel," is the exact moment the data link layer is severed. It's a forced disconnect command. They're saying they have zero portion in the centralized Davidic line anymore. And just like that, the central mainframe becomes a completely distributed system of independent local nodes.
Martin Luther's postmortem on this is brilliant. He illustrates that a shared protocol simply cannot survive when the central unit becomes fundamentally toxic. The core protocol, the unity of the system, was intentionally broken because the central authority pushed the outer nodes way beyond their operational limits.
All right, Section 4, Interface Destruction and Hard Fault. The protocol's dead, right? But Rehoboam still doesn't get that he's lost network access. He actually thinks he's still the master admin.
Just look at the rapid unraveling here on this timeline. Day 1, user interrupt requested. Day 3, bad patch deployed. Day 4, network disconnect. Day 5, violent physical rejection. I mean, this system was crashing at absolute lightning speed.
Totally failing to read the diagnostics, Rehoboam sends Adoram, his chief tax collector, to forcefully grab resources just like the old days. But Adoram is basically a legacy data collection interface. When Rehoboam tries to force this interface into a disconnected architecture, the 10 tribes respond by stoning him to death. That is a literal physical hard fault, a violent error that finally forces Rehoboam into a panicked retreat back to his local server in Jerusalem.
John Knox diagnosed this perfectly. Forcing legacy data collection onto a disconnected architecture severed that final hardware bus permanently. Sending the very tool of Solomon's original oppression was exactly like pouring oil on a server fire. The connection was physically and permanently destroyed. No coming back from that.
Now, this creates a really fascinating security dilemma for Jeroboam, the new admin of those separated northern nodes. He's got a massive problem. His users are historically programmed to ping the central server in Jerusalem for their religious worship. So how do you stop them from automatically routing back and restoring the old network?
That leads us to Section 5, Fake Proxies and Split Brain Syndrome. To guarantee separation and secure his administrative rights, Jeroboam deploys a highly destructive workaround.
To stop that traffic going back to the main data center in Jerusalem, Jeroboam literally alters the routing tables. He sets up 2 golden calves in Bethel and Dan to act as fake proxy servers. He's spoofing the original network with counterfeit authorities and interfaces, capturing user traffic before it can ever leave his local intranet.
By pointing to these golden calves and telling the people, hey, these are your gods, he initiates what network engineers call split brain syndrome. It's a catastrophic state. You've got disconnected nodes operating independently with totally conflicting sets of data. Because the North and South stopped synchronizing, the entire religious and cultural database became violently misaligned. It was a permanent, unpatchable system corruption.
Charles Spurgeon hits the nail on the head here. This wasn't a simple routing error. It was deliberate manipulation. Jeroboam used user convenience as a Trojan horse, telling them it was too much to travel all the way down to Jerusalem, just so he could install those fake proxy servers and protect his admin rights.
So, reviewing our final incident log, the whole kingdom moved from a bottleneck straight into complete system deprecation. And we really have to trace it all back to step 1, Solomon's mistake. His relentless demand for resources created that initial centralized overload. He made the system incredibly fragile. If Solomon hadn't pushed the hardware to the absolute brink, Rehoboam's error wouldn't have been instantly fatal, and Jeroboam's split-brain corruption would never have happened.
I want to leave you with this to chew on. Think about the architecture of the organizations around us today, whether it's a corporate structure, a government, or a digital network. What centralized bottlenecks are we totally ignoring right now? Are we pushing our own systems into synchronous overload, just waiting for that one bad command to trigger an unavoidable crash? Thanks for diving into this system diagnostic with me today.